Kia ora, I'm Shelby, and this is a story on Michael Barrett. The last person to be publicly hanged in Britain was an Irish terrorist who 12 days before Christmas in 1867 tried to rescue two Fenian prisoners, Richard O'Sullivan Burke and one Casey, being held at Clerkenwell House of Detention in London by blowing a hole in the wall. The plotters parked a wagon packed with dynamite beside the prison and exploded it at 3:45 p.m. The explosion tore down the prison wall, but it also devastated the block of houses opposite. The tenements were stripped clearly of their frontages, left open like dolls' houses with the kettles still on the hobs. 6 people died immediately, another 6 later, and 120 were injured. Most of the victims were women and children. Neither Burke nor Casey escaped. Barrett was arrested when informers went to the police. He was taken into custody with a woman and 4 men, 2 of whom turned Queen's evidence. Barrett spoke eloquently in his own defence, but to no avail. He was found guilty of wilful murder and sentenced to death. Barrett claimed that he had been to Glasgow at the time of the explosion. In his prison cell, he wrote to a Glasgow newspaper, thanking his supporters for, quote, knowing me to be innocent of the crime of which I am called upon to suffer, close quote. So a bit of the aftermath. On the day of his death, 26th of May, 1868, Barrett wore a short red jacket and stripy grey trousers as he was led to the gallows outside Newgate. The crowd booed and hissed in equal measure, but Barrett ignored them, listening instead to the priest who accompanied him. When someone in the crowd shouted, "Hats off," everyone obeyed. Barrett's last words were spoken to hangman William Calcraft, asking him to adjust the rope. The executioner complied and then immediately pulled the bolt, sending the Irishman to his death. The Times reported, quote, a great cry rose from the crowd as the culprit fell. A cry which was neither an exclamation nor a scream, but it partook in its sound of both, close quote. Barrett died instantly, no mean feat for Calcraft, often bungled his executions. The Times said, quote, in the presence of the vast concourse of spectators, Michael Barrett, the author of the Clerkenwell explosion, was hanged in front of Newgate. In its circumstances, there was very little to distinguish this from ordinary executions. The crowd was greater, perhaps, and better behaved still from the peculiar atrocity of the crime of which Barrett suffered, and from the fact of its being probably the last public execution in England. It deserves more than usual notice, close quote. Another newspaper added, quote, he had gone to the scaffold with red hair and beard. When he was lifted off it, his hair oddly was said to have turned black, close quote. You should know Calcraft performed the last public executions in England, Scotland, and the first private execution in England. Oh, imagine that as a job. Anyway, so that was the story on him, and hope you enjoyed hearing about Michael Barrett. Please stay safe and subscribe.